Hello and welcome to another episode of Speculative Speculations. I'm Varsha,
I'm Jared.
And I'm Chris.
and this is a series where we talk about speculative stories in all their forms. And I did not get distracted by the trailer today because I was busy thinking up my Takes Kalani name. I'm going to change it promptly. But before that, um, we are working our way through A Desolation called Peace. We are back into that world, and that's why we are thinking Takes Kalani names again. And the short story for today is Where Two Paths Cross by Dmitri Bilenkin. As always, from the Big Book of Science Fiction. We'll be reading that book for, I think, another year or so. We are a little over halfway through. And the short story for next week is going to be Standing Woman by Yasutaka Tsutsui. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
I think that was bang on. Yes.
Okay. If you disagree, tell us in the comments. And we are going to be talking up to chapter 4 today for Desolation called Peace. And the discussion for next week is going to be interlude to chapter 8. That's about 107 pages. The short stories, the next few ones are fairly smallish, I think. We're going to be reading Revelation Space after we finish Desolation Called Peace. So if that's something you'd like to join us for, please check out the Patreon forum. That's where we do all our planning. With all that said, how good was it to be back with Mahit and 3 Seagrass and some new people who I actually latched on to pretty immediately? 9 Hibiscus, was it? Yeah.
9 Hibiscus. So actually, this is my first talking point about this book is I actually struggled for the first 2 chapters. Not so much with, because we get to meet Mahit quite early. I really miss 3 Seagrass and the interplay between 3 Seagrass and the other characters a lot. And as soon as 3 Seagrass came back into it in sort of prominent fashion, I think this book felt much more in common ground because all the other stuff, the introduction of 9 Hibiscus and their crew, Swarm, etc. Like it was interesting, but it was new stuff. We really didn't know what was going on. It didn't feel like Memory Called Empire in its own right. It wasn't until we got that bit of, 3 Seagrass, because even Mahit's back home with, again, more people we don't know.
How could you miss somebody in the mere 100 pages that we read? That's not enough time to miss somebody there, Chris.
I mean, fair. Yes, absolutely.
I mean, we haven't met in less time than we read in this book.
That's Varsha's new name, by the way. 0 appearances.
Yes, I like that. I was going to make it 7 apocalyptic fudge, but I don't know how to change it. So we'll do 0 appearances.
You 0 appearances, because you can't pick your own nickname. You really? I know that they do, but I might just be called Hulk, or my nickname I wanted for myself when I was 3 or 4, remember, was Leopard. I just thought leopards were cool. And everybody's like, you're not a leopard. And I'm like, whatever. Rawr,
Rawr.
Although I have to say, I do love it. 7 apocalypse. Like that's pretty good.
That's pretty good. I like that. Yeah.
Thank you. I can't figure out how to change it. So if you listen to this part of the episode, you know what my name is. Otherwise, we'll never talk. And you can call me Chocolate as a nickname. And I guess Jared, you'll be Coin. I love the nicknames they give each other.
Metal. You can go
Metal. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that's cool. But back on the thing. Yes, you're right, Jared. Like it was only like 30 pages, like out of the 100. I was about 10 pages and I went, "Where's 3 Seagrass? You better be in this."
If you miss somebody, you miss somebody. You can't help it, right?
Yeah, it's a state of mind.
So, what do you think about the prelude in here?
Oh, did that alien remind anybody else of Tchaikovsky's without giving too many spoilers? Remind me of at least 1, maybe 2 of Tchaikovsky's Aliens.
I
Yeah.
got a strong Tchaikovsky vibe out of the start of this book, just in general. I think that's definitely, as soon as we step into space, it feels very of that world. Let's just say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you got to be specific that when you refer to Tchaikovsky's Aliens, we're talking about the Children of Time series, because hasn't he made up like 10,000 aliens in other
Oh,
books
of
or whatever?
course, that's a
That's true.
speciality. Yeah.
I'm also thinking of another Tchaikovsky book I read recently, but I won't say which for spoilers, because the nature of the alien you sort of find out over time. And
Okay.
But anyways, this I thought the prelude was interesting because it's about language, and it's about the concept of we.
Mhm.
And this is a concept that came up in the last book, with the Texaglani
Mhm.
people, and how they view themselves and how they view themselves within their society. But this is, of course, in the prelude, it's a much stronger form of we, and a much more um, almost like a heavy, threatening type of we than it is with the people of the empire, the population of the empire. And that I thought she brought out that contrast right away to show us we're getting into something else here. We're exploring some new territory on the concept of pluralism versus individualism, and how it's going to work with the first contact that we get here coming up. So I thought that was very interesting how she threw that in there as a little prelude.
yeah. And they seem to find some sort of connection with the people who carry an imago, right? That's what that seems to be the case. That it can't find anything in common with humans because of this huge disparity between their, I guess they're a unified consciousness split across many bodies, and the humans have individual consciousnesses, except in the case of those wearing an imago. It seems like, at least that's what it read to me, like the thing that it latched on to and said, oh wait, this seems to be like me, maybe there's something I can interact with. That felt like people from Ilsel, how are we saying it, Ilsel station. um or and I don't know if it had like a distant, um let's say it probed people, the stationers from a distance, and figured out that there are people like it in the station. Or we know that the station lost some people to this alien. Maybe that's who
Oh
it
yeah,
means.
that's probably
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Um, and also, it's funny how that also has slight parallels to our short story coming up again. I like when the themes of our main read kind of bleed into the short story, even though that's never planned. Just in case anybody ever is under the very much mistaken idea that much planning goes into this at all. But just
Wait,
like in,
Vasha didn't plan that.
well, she
No.
may have done.
Are
We all know.
Are you underestimating the boss here? I don't know.
I will always either pretend to or unpurposely be ignorant of her overarching world domination plan. Um,
As I intend for you to be.
yeah, indeed. So like, within Tchaikovsky's book, and again, I think that's one of the nice things about reading a lot of fiction within a certain genre, is that you can make these sort of parallels between things. His was very much about the loss of freedom and the loss of independence and the loss of independent thought. And I think for the Texclani, this is quite interesting because they're seeing this as a threat, but they are a civilization that subsumes and conquers other civilizations to take in their technology. So it's to me, I was sort of reading it as a bit, well, this is a bit rich. Just because you're not at the top of the food chain, potentially, this is a major issue, major problem. But I also think that Nine Hibiscus, etc., and the orders that we find out that she's been given from 19 Adzi, I think they're maybe a bit more wise to what's going on and how to deal with this than maybe it appears to be. And I think that's interesting to think about as well. Is that it isn't just alien threat. they will take us over and we can't really fight back. We'll not be the plucky underdog that fights back. There's a bit more. These people are very smart. 19, I'd say, is incredibly on the ball and very smart. And then, of course, we get the antidote as well. And we see how clever they are in strategic thinking. So,
Yeah.
It sets up a really interesting, I think, sort of interplay between all these civilizations, characters, and kind of ideas and thoughts about how things go.
Yeah, there's definitely not a sense of panic at all.
Indeed.
Yeah. I actually like that. And they did have an explicit conversation, I guess with 16 Moonrise, was it? It's so hard to remember the numbers preceding each name. 16 Moonrise, when she said, I just want to go shoot at some things, and 9 Hibiscus is like, no, let's not. And I guess the other thing that I'm thinking of is Arrival / Story of Your Life and Others. Story of Your Life. I guess that's the short story. That the other one is the name of the collection. But where we're like trying to interact with an alien whose method of communication is fundamentally different. It's so different that we can't even begin to think about it in the same realm. So it'll be interesting to see how, hoping that we're heading there, how the conversations between human and alien are likely to go.
Yeah, especially since language was something she definitely explored in the last book. And it's going to be, I think it's going to be, it sets up a new dynamic about exploring another aspect of language and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool.
And it also sets up a very different sort of setup for this book compared to the first one, because the first one was about kind of fitting in, fish out of water, that kind of, an alien in a strange land, and how you fit in and navigate through that, especially making relationships with them. And I would say very much a drama of sorts, whereas this feels very space opera-ish very quickly. It's kind of on a scale and a level that is destroying even the idea of this kind of melting liquid threat that you will be at, and we can't resist this. It's a very classic alien kind of weapon trope. Don't let it touch you, otherwise you'll lose yourself or you'll die. So I think it's interesting how you can have all of these really interesting systems and ideas and philosophies throughout that were woven through this book, but kind of have space opera, sort of stranger in a strange land, kind of very much, and still have it work and still have it make sense.
Yeah. And it was interesting how you pointed out that what the last book was, the fish out of water thing, and Mahit actually said she missed that. She missed that feeling where she is now. And that was interesting as well, because now she's dealing with interior politics on the space station and what's going to go on there, which is interesting in and of itself, but right now it's a separate storyline. But very, very interesting how she actually missed what we were reading about in the first book.
Yeah. Do I remember correctly that there was a lot of self-referential stuff in the first book, which seems to be a little bit more the case here as well? Or
in what way are you thinking?
I'm thinking maybe in the aspects of I don't think self-referential is correct. It's more the way in which the Tex Kalani incorporate literature and trying to live like their favorite epic into their life. I think that adds a layer of meta commentary that maybe I need to think about more through this book. But that was explicitly mentioned and discussed in the first book, but I didn't think of it as, say, meta elements in the book, but might feel more like it. Like what you said, Jared, made me think that maybe it's a level above the book itself.
Interesting, yeah. And it's funny when 3 Seagrass is reintroduced to the story. She's
your
Evan in this book, isn't she?
I didn't realize until I started reading this book, but I think, but sorry for kind of cutting across what you can say. She's very funny. She's very noticeably very funny in this book. She's got very good comic thoughts and kind of experiences, which I think really helps, because sometimes this can feel very serious, like it's super like, oh my god,
Yeah.
we are in the midst of things here. So having that kind of light relief and that kind of contrast is really nice. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, to Vash's point, it was her kind of poetry that kind of helped move things along in a positive fashion in the last book at the end there. And now she's, like Vasha said, self-deferential, and she's like, her illusions are becoming terrible. She's telling herself, fog of pollen, what the hell's that? And, and I love that. I love that part of it, because it's like something was accomplished, and now she's like, she doesn't have that spark to have that same creative level that she had before.
Yeah, but she's such an interesting character for me, because she's obviously somebody that's like a high riser through society. She's somebody that's got noticed through it, but she is also very willing to be sacrificial for herself, for the civilization itself. Like, she's basically on what she considers to be a mission of death. That she's not going to come back from. But there's an interest, and she's also feeling the loss that Mahit's feeling on Ilsa as well. In terms of, not even just, there's the reference to their kiss, etc., but I think the companionship between the two of them has been lost, and I think we as readers sort of feel that, in terms of like, gotta get the band back together here. It's that's what needs to happen, and I have no doubt that is what's going to happen.
She's headed slowly and steadily through Lil. Okay, I'm just going to call it Cell. I'm not trying to pronounce the L anymore. Cell station. The Do you think that's how Mahit gets out of whatever fix she is in? Because we left her at none of the options currently open to her are any good, and they all are out to get her. None of them will end well for her. Nobody cares. But 3 Seagrass is heading her way slowly and steadily. Maybe she gets on 9 Hibiscus's ship, and she and 3 Seagrass figure out how to communicate with the alien together.
Well, that's the end of this book. Okay.
Yeah, that's that. Yep. Thanks. Well, you probably read the end anyway,
No, that's definitely.
You caught me. You
yeah.
caught me. Damn.
Hopefully it's not that simple, but yeah, you would suspect that they're going to meet up at some point, and there's going to be a reunion, whether it's in a harrowing situation that they meet up, or whether it's out of necessity to for 3 Seagrass to do her new job, with talking to the alien. I wonder if she's going to say, "Hey, I need this person."
Yeah,
as she is, without being operated on first, in order to do my job, or is she going to be able to pull some kind of rank to get her out of there? Because Cell Station's independent supposedly, and so we'll see how that goes. Yeah, it's interesting stuff.
I think Mahit's position at the start of this book's really interesting, because she left Tescalani to save herself in some ways. She didn't want to be lost and never be able to go home if she stayed any longer. She sort of didn't want to be trapped. Yet when she gets home, she is again the fish out of water here. Everybody else had not expected her to come back. Everybody felt she was compromised and she wouldn't have her way out of it. And she doesn't want them to know how she maneuvered her way out of it. She's desperate for that not to happen. I think she's desperate for that even more than them finding the other Imago and her losing the 2 Iskanders inside her. So she's sort of left sort of not being able to use her smarts in the way that she was in the previous book. In which case, like, she caught people unaware. She people didn't know what they expect of her. She got a position of influence very quickly, and now that's all gone. She's literally, and people know she's fighting to hide her secrets, and they don't need her anymore. She's literally a nobody within that society now, because she's fulfilled her usefulness. And I think there's something in that they used her to implant technology inside her, and thought of her as a resource that was used up, because the point isn't made, isn't it, that they could just kind of take her Imago, with Iskander, etc., and just put it into somebody else. They don't need her, and therefore she has no place in society and no influence.
Yeah. And her barbarian smile is not working on other barbarians.
Indeed, yeah.
I I really love the conversations that Mahit and Iskandar had about two things. One, when they talk about why she came back, and she said, "I wanted to come back home," and Iskandar says, "There's no such thing." And they also talk about how something, if she does a particular thing, they will be free. Or I guess they were also talking about Tarat's plan to free Cell Station from Texkalani influence. And also they, at that point also they say no such thing. And that comes back, like no such thing, that sort of refrain, I think it's really powerful, the things for which it is being said, right? This concept of home, this concept of freedom, and all things that I think people go to die or go to war for. And I love the like subtle and quiet way in which that's being broken down in conversations between Mahit and Iskandar.
Yeah, and I also think there's definitely this Imago thing does make me think of Foundation quite a bit. It is very reminiscent of Foundation. This kind of nearly omniscience because of the fact that the Iskander has went through time and is a voice from the past. She's a voice of the present, etc. All that kind of stuff. And I think that's an interesting inspiration. And it comes back to the same thing for me for this book, which is this book's smart. Like, it's really smart. It feels like an awful lot of modernish sci-fi is being written with the idea, God, it'd be great if this was made into a film. And that's how I'll make my money. You know, I'll make my money by writing something that has lots of action in it and is simple enough for people to follow. And this book doesn't do simple and easy to follow. It creates a really complex world and then sort of plays within it. And I can't imagine this as a film. I can imagine it as a TV series for sure. It's got that level of complexity to it, but it has so much going on, and the book could, even at this stage, 100 pages in, a fifth of the way through, could be about any one of the things that we've sort of discovered about. I think we know where it's going, but it could, in theory, kind of take an awful lot of other left turns, etc. Especially with the introduction of Eight Antidote and that kind of character and the kind of internal politics that are still happening in Texas.
Yeah, what do you think is going on with Eight Antidote? That was interesting. I expected we'd see more of 19, as she was a brilliant character, and I'm really glad that we do. But I honestly wasn't expecting so much more of Eight Antidote. And it seems that he will grow into a central character later on in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What did he do again? You gotta remind me.
So we get this bit again. I thought this was very Johnny Wirtz like. She paints yet Andy Dude as being, because he was just sort of painted as a child, or a child, with good genetics, a bit of a child prodigy, but they paint him very clearly as being very smart, very capable, a strategic mind that's just waiting to be set free and kind of be useful to society. And that's painted over a number of pages in this.
Right. He's the clone of the former emperor.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And he's only like what, 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old,
something like that. The clone of what I can't help but call One Direction.
Six.
It's six Direction. Yes, I know that, but there were only 5 members of One Direction, and
he's the 6th member. All right,
he's the 6th member, right? Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's right. Okay, so now it's all coming back to me. Yeah, you're right. He's a fascinating character because he stressed that line between being innocent and being potentially a future threat, and being but also somebody you want to root for to do well, because 19 Asdi is kind of grooming him a little bit for his role, his maybe his future public role, depending on how things go with her rule. So it's yeah, a very interesting character.
Yeah.
I forget what Six Direction what his will was when he died. It was 19 ads is emperor now, right?
Hmm.
Yeah,
She's not a regent to
No,
this
correct.
kid.
she was made emperor. That was once One Direction / Six Direction couldn't get eternal life through the Imago anymore. He basically sacrificed himself,
Hmm,
and
Named her as the
left it.
successor.
Yeah, named her because I think
I see.
Antidote was too young.
Got it. And they don't typically have children. Well, I suppose they could have children. So like if 19 ads
Yeah.
decides to have a
Hmm.
child, will Six Direction still be the heir? Because I forget the part where he declared. Wait, did I say six antidote? Sorry, six direction. I meant eight antidote. This
Yeah.
is numbers.
From what I
Uh,
remember in the first book, it's not primogeniture at all. It's not even blood relation. They like
Hmm.
the emperor has to decide who's going to
hmm,
be their heir, and it could be anybody that they decide. Um,
That's right.
and originally, the emperor was looking to, of course, we know he was looking to be immortal with the
Hmm.
Mongols and what have you, but that didn't work out. But traditionally, it was the emperor named who their heir was going to be, and of course, there's a bunch of politics and stuff around, you know, uh, who he's going to name, and I think he had somebody else named.
Yeah, there was
Oh
like
no,
three likely
there was
candidates, wasn't
three
there?
candidates, but he
Yeah.
was refusing to name one of them, and they were all worried because he was, of course, getting old, and so I think that was an exception rather than a rule that he would have people hanging like that,
Yeah.
which caused a lot of strife and which caused part of the reason for the uprisings and stuff like that. Um, and so now we have a situation where I don't know if 19 has named anybody.
Doesn't
I
seem
mean,
to.
she's a little too new, maybe.
yeah, so that was my question because I would have thought 19 ads would decide who's next after her, but it seems that Six Direction decided the next two emperors, not. Or is 19 ads only allowed to be emperor until eight antidote comes of age?
No, I don't think that was necessarily the case, but I think given how the politics play out in the society, it would actually be suicidal to name who your successor was, because then that person would be a target, would be murdered, rather than this sort of like veiled, threatening kind of
Mm,
political landscape that they have, that everybody's sort of posturing. We get a little bit of it actually with the Nine Hibiscus and the kind of threat to take over the Legion, to take over from Yatlik. Again, that sort of thing is playing out in space in the same way as it played out in the Emperorship. And
mm.
we get the sense actually at the end of the last book and in this one, while 19 adds sees more than capable in an Emperor, she seems to be a reluctant Emperor. It's not something that she ever kind of had thought was in her plans, certainly at that stage. It was a shock at that time, but in some ways is the person who was most like 1/6 direction beforehand, in terms of just wanted something for the betterment of society, and not the kind of bloodlust or the hunger or the greed that seemed to be coming from other parts or other kind of possible emperors within that world and that political system.
Yeah, it seems to be. It seems like it requires some sort of balancing of keeping people wondering and naming an actual
Yeah.
heir at the right time. Um, so I wonder how they would do it when if somebody were to die
Mhm.
unexpectedly. Is there a vote? Is there a consensus of some sort? I'm not sure, and it seems pretty complex, which is fairly which is good, which makes it a bit more realistic considering how complex many societies here on real
Absolutely.
Earth are. Yeah,
In our world.
yeah.
But
Mm.
world is just another word for Teixkalan. So, it, yeah. What do you guys think of Nine Hibiscus? Once you got over your longing for Three Seagrass, did you start to like her at that point, Chris?
I did actually. So I warmed actually to that whole storyline at that point once we kind of maneuvered around, because we get again. I talk about this quite a lot and things. I like reading about characters who are smart. That is just pretty much my favorite thing to read, is people that play the cards close to the chest, or sort of maneuvering pieces around, and you're not really sure exactly what they're thinking, but you have a broad idea of what they're thinking and what their overall aims are, but the final piece hasn't been slotted into place yet. And so she's trying to hold on to power because she has the secret mission, in some ways from 19 that again seems like at the start definitely a suicide mission, but also we find out that 19 actually thinks that they are so capable that they might actually come back from it, which again is a lovely piece of writing, I think, for a character that we don't really know. You kind of see them through other people's eyes. We get an idea that they're capable and smart, but we don't really have the set expectation that it is going to be a suicide run at the end. So it's nice to see her play with other people, although I will admit I didn't, and I'm probably not supposed to understand everything that happened in that meeting between her and everybody else.
Yeah, I love how we get some of Nine Hibiscus's history by way of Eight Antidotes studying history in
So
a
clever.
classroom
Yeah.
type thing. That was very clever. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And I was ever so slightly disappointed in 19 ads, because it felt like she feels like someone who would be confident enough in their power that she wouldn't do something like what the guy was implying. So whether or not she means it, I'm glad we got that answer from her that Nine Hibiscus might just be smart enough to survive this. I didn't send her to die. I hope she will live. Although I guess there is an alternative. Is there an alternative interpretation to that? I thought of it at the time, but I can't recall it right this moment. That may not put what she said in a very good light.
Yeah. I think she's in a funny position in this book, actually, 19 because she was always very sneaky. And because she was in the shadows in the background, she didn't ever have to reveal her hand in any way. And now she is the main decision maker. And to a certain extent, she can be in the background. But it was much more fun having somebody like that pulling the strings than actually having to make the entire decision. It's just less. It's inherently less fun, I think, just for the place the character's in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't forget though, she also was contemplating killing Mahit.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and I mean, she ended up not doing it. She ended up saving her from the poison or whatever. But there was hesitation there, and so she does have a ruthless streak within her. So it'd be interesting to see where her storyline goes as far as that is concerned.
Yeah. And there was something else. Oh, what do you guys think of that? Or maybe I just want to comment on it. The Sun Spear, when Eight Antidote Sun Spear thrown. Is that what that's called?
Mm-hmm.
He thinks about how it is hard for people to leave once they are there, talking to the Empress. It takes effort, like like ships going out of orbit. That I thought that was such a lovely comparison. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I like that. And I always love it when we have aliens that are alien.
Yes.
That's always a cool thing.
Yeah. Very much so. I like that as well. This does feel like a very multicultural, whatever nationality kind of world. That there do seem to be distinct differences between people, between political systems and that kind of stuff, but not too alien that it feels like we can't understand what's going on, because it does mirror an awful lot of our own politics and what you'd expect to happen here in a lot of ways. But but having it in two different places at the moment, we're actually in three if you include like Nine Hibiscus in space and three Seagrass in space at the moment. It's sort of a bit disconnected here in terms of how you put it together and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm looking forward to the next little section. Like I say, getting the band back together and seeing what they can do.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that. The Damn, what was I going to say? It was about the alien, I think. Yeah, there is something. I don't know if this is quite at the level where you think of it as cosmic horror, but there's just something that
Mm.
the aliens feel so alien, like Jared said, with the noise that makes 20. How do you say cicada? Uh,
Cicada, yeah,
Oh
cicada.
cicada,
yeah.
yeah. Um, get nauseated at the end of it, and they have this weird spit. They only show themselves when they want, so who knows how many of them are hiding in the area. And we've got some alien, like some perspectives from the alien, which makes them feel so different. I love how well done all of that is.
Mhm.
And they do invoke this sort of, oh, I don't know what else out there could be quite this unknown. So I think that whole aspect of it is quite well done. Maybe not cosmic horror, but cosmic existentialism is certainly
Mhm.
invoked. Yeah.
Definitely. Now that you mentioned it, as soon as you mentioned it, there is a Lovecraft vibe to that whole thing.
Yeah. But I think it's a nice balance between the weirdness of the alien and the like you said, this cosmic aspect to it that is the fear of you don't know what it is and you don't know what it's going to do. And but there's also the balance with they're not panicking, and it seems like they do have the ability to damage this alien. It's not like this otherworldly threat that nobody has any idea what to do about it, and there's no hope or anything like that. It's definitely like it seems like something that they're confident they can tackle, but yet it's still balanced against that contrast of being very strange, very alien, and very unknown, and having these abilities that we don't have, and we don't or they don't understand how it works, but they're they're scientific enough to be interested in how the aliens are able to do what they're doing, and the thing that she set up with this Texiclan empire is that that's what they do. They go out and subsume things. They go out and take over technologies and learn how to use them and stuff like that. And this alien threat is no different, even as existential as it seems. So
Yeah.
that's a tough balance, I think, to pull off, and I think she's doing a pretty good job with it so far.
I have I'm ready for prediction time. And you know how often I am right about predictions? Almost never, but I think it's interesting. Okay, so here's my go. Okay. So we heard about these aliens in the last book, didn't we? They were sort of
Yep.
floating away. It's not like they've just appeared. And we get the story about that it Antidote is told about Nine Hibiscus, about how she was basically the sleeper agents that were within that society, and that's what allowed them to take over. I sort of feel like the Texcalani have a sort of hubris that is waiting to be taken down here in some ways. Like they as you've sort of alluded to, they have there's an invasion, but they're not really worried about it at all. They're sort of playing with it, thinking it's a little bit of a threat, but not much. There was also Cope by 8 Antidote, which I picked out from it that I felt was a bit foreshadowy. And it is this: don't trust anyone who makes you feel good without knowing why they want you to feel that way, right?
Mhm.
That was in there.
Yeah, that's
What
great.
if the aliens have already infiltrated Texlandy society and are already there and are influencing it from the inside out? I think that's it's probably way off base, but I think it's an interesting idea because it would shake up if there's somebody within Texlandy society that's risen to a high rank, especially maybe recently from nowhere. Um,
Oh, maybe. Oh, get this. I'm going to add on to your prediction with another prediction that's going to be a wrong prediction on top of your wrong prediction, so that
absolutely, these are the
two
best.
wrongs two wrongs are going to make a right here. Okay,
Yeah,
so the the Emperor Sixth Direction actually got a hold of alien technology, this alien technology,
Mm.
and that is how he learned how to clone himself. And eight antidote is actually alien in clone form.
Jeez, we're good at this. This is so much fun. I can't believe how wrong we are, but how interesting a theory these are, right?
Nice. I like this.
What have you got, Barsha? Come on, you got. We're gonna go 3-0 for
Oh,
3 here. We're gonna
I
strike out massively.
I'd really like to build on top of what you said, but mine is kind of different. Let's see if we can make it part of the whole.
Okay. Yep.
But so you know how the aliens versus humans, the main difference seems to be at the moment is the singular versus plural mind. Who do we know in Teixkalan that seem to have some sort of split consciousness?
Mm.
The sunlit, right? And we know that bombings are still happening in like 19 ads is still trying to figure out who's doing bombings. And do you think the sunlit have been okay? It's sort of built on top of what you said. Are alien infiltrated people, and they're helping with the bombing somehow.
Okay, and I'll go one more just to finish off. So
Mm-hmm.
the cloud hook technology, maybe they biologically haven't infiltrated them, but maybe they have
Ooh,
infiltrated them through the cloud hook as well.
interesting.
This, which would again link to this the sunnet because they communicate through the cloud hook, etc. I think it's interesting that they have subsumed this technology from other cultures without necessarily it being their own, which
Hmm.
has a risk,
Ah.
technological
And
risk, etc. You know.
and then the Mahit and Iskander pluralism are going to be the key to defeating the alien pluralism and infiltration in the empire.
Yes, we did this. We've solved this book. We can just read something else next week. Revelation Space. This.
No,
Oh
you'd
wait,
be taking the fun off. Imagine if we got even 1% of that right. We'd be like, we are geniuses, complete and utter geniuses. 99% wrong, 1% right. We go, I call that.
yeah. We call that one thing. Everything else is wrong, but it's
Yeah.
Really is wildly wrong.
So, okay, shifting gears a little bit. What do you think is so? Why does Mahit feel so wrong about her imago? Because sure, she's got two versions of Iskander and herself, but that doesn't seem vastly different from any other imago line that has more than two people in it, right? You still have to integrate all those personalities, not just the previous one you're integrating. So how is this that much different than what they have to do already? Like she's making it seem like it's so bad, but I feel like it's maybe because of the Iskandar split personality, that's what's making it bad for her. But I still don't get why that's that much different than if you just had three different people.
so you think she feels bad because of the state of her imagos,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not. But does she actually know? Because she's only had her own imago experience. Has she talked to other people with imagos that
So
have? Because I don't think she's opened herself up to other people who has imagos that would tell her, "Oh, you're not experiencing this correctly."
hmm,
So maybe she just has some preconceived notion, and um, maybe she is experiencing it normally, and she just feels bad because she has a preconceived notion that this isn't normal. We don't know.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe. So where my question is coming from is when what's his name, Tarat, he says that I'm just gonna like pluck the imago out of you and put it in someone else, and she has a thought for the young person who will need to accept that imago. She thinks that this is not going to go well for them
Mhm.
at all, and there were two parts to it. One, like that was where I had this question about if this was just an imago line that had five people, for instance, that's five personalities they have to integrate anyway. So is it mainly the fact that Iskandar is split into two, that makes it bad. And then the second part was Iskandar. That was slightly more interesting to me. Says, I will drown in that new person. Like he won't have a solo existence anymore, which yeah, like they still need to exist, I guess. Sorry, Chris, you seem like you were about to say something.
Well, I'm trying to work out how to say this because we have a discussion tomorrow, which again has this as a theme of the book, a very massive thing. This kind of rationalizing of basically another person in your mind or in your thoughts. And it strikes me that this imago experience is supposed to change over time, so you become to rationalize how you deal with another person's thoughts in your head, and whether, because we get the bits at the moment where my head's going, oh, I nearly said that out loud. And she had that in the last book where she did basically react and say things out loud which were Iskandar's thoughts, even though they were sabotaged. So I wonder, obviously the two imagos at once has probably never been done in their society, and they haven't rationalized the one person into their thoughts to kind of work out the hierarchy of who says what, but also they have got two different versions of the same person. But maybe you can't say it, but if somebody got a 20-year-old version of me and a current version of me, I'm not sure they would see a very similar person. That's almost
sure.
That's almost a completely different person within it. So trying to make sense of what's my thoughts, what's their thoughts, which Iskandar are we talking about, I'd say that takes a long time to process and put together. And it's only at that point when that two consciousness, or in this case three consciousness, becomes one, that imago then gets passed on to somebody else. So it's almost like a singular consciousness, but at the moment they'd be passing on a very confused state to somebody else, somebody that really doesn't know what's going on. There's too many voices in their head.
Makes sense. She's not integrated yet. She's not. I guess imago lines eventually become one person. So then the next person sort of just ends up inheriting the integrated person. Although she also did have an example of another student in her class who inherited a 14 or 5 line imago or something, and they collapsed under the weight of all those memories. So yeah.
Incidentally, one of my favorite lines in the whole 100 pages was Iskandar saying shit.
Yeah.
It's sort of implying that Iskandar has secrets that he's not sharing with Mahit either. You know what I mean? The things that they're being kept behind, even though they are the same person.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do you also think she's also worried about getting in trouble for having a back alley operation?
I think she's less worried than she is worried about losing the two consciousnesses.
Oh, yeah, she absolutely doesn't want to lose it. Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
I think there's a sense of that because she already knows that if they find that out, she's gone. She's no use to society. She'll be instantly replaced. Whereas at least at the moment, she has some knowledge about Texlandia and about the change of government, which makes her somewhat useful in that society because she has knowledge that other people in that society don't have. And as soon as they find that out, I mean, it's an unknown, isn't it? Because this is what she thinks is going to happen, but obviously, if somebody went in, somebody raised alarm, they might go, actually, this changes our entire society. The greatest scientific inventions have usually come out of accidents, so.
True. Yeah, very good.
Oh yeah, people can take multiple imagos, and then what?
Where does it end?
Yeah. Until everybody's one person, like that alien.
Exactly. Now, people don't realize this, but this is actually one consciousness doing this this podcast.
Yes.
Yes, there's three screens, and it's just AI generating all of the avatars of people moving about. This is not a real person. There's nobody this handsome on the planet. That's just.
That's it. That's true. True story.
Oh fuck. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Anyway,
All right, we need to stop writing our own fiction here. And
I was going to say this started off speculation, and it's got two speculational. I'm just making up nouns. This is great.
I think we made up a few today. So are we ready to move on to the short story? I almost wrapped up the episode because I forgot about the short story.
Let's please.
When two paths become one, is that what it's called?
When two paths cross.
We're at two paths cross.
Okay. Cross. Yes.
I keep on thinking it's when two trees grow for some reason. Every time I go, oh, we're talking about when two trees grow today. It's not that when two paths cross. I'll try and do a summation of it. Humans invade a world and the vegetation fights back. But the vegetation is not necessarily as intelligent as the humans think it is initially. I think maybe that point that what point or what is intelligence and what is biology and what is whatever else. Yeah, it's an interesting little story, Jared. Like, I don't know about you. Varsha. It's a bit of an oddity because it doesn't. I'm not sure it has an actual point like some other ones do, but it goes on a journey.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it. I think I like right in the first paragraph. There's I think that pretty much states the theme. It says, "He who dawdles risk dying in the hurricane. However tightly he holds on to the soil." And that's kind of like the theme of the whole story. It's like you hold on to something tightly enough in the middle of disaster, you're going to just be wiped out by the disaster. And that's kind of carries on throughout the whole story here. And and that's of course at the end, the storm catches the what do you call it, the Mangor, because it wouldn't let go of the spaceship, that it didn't really understand what it was. So there's a lot of, not a lot, but there's something to think about there, just about holding on to something tightly that you think is valuable, but actually ultimately is not. And I think that's just kind of the whole theme and the point of the story.
Interesting. I didn't quite think of it like that, but that's a great point. I did think if there is any point the story is trying to make, it's probably in that last paragraph where it tells us that the hurricane took the Mangor and broke the spaceship into 1,000 pieces while it was at it. Or I guess their all-terrain thing, whatever it was that the Mangor were mistaking for their for their other enemy, which sounded an awful lot like a word for vehicles. I forget what it was, what the name of their enemy was, but
or something like that.
It started with an O. I forget what it
was.
called.
Or Onibar or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And I like what you said, Jared, about holding on to something precious, or it could be the mindless fear. But I don't know if the humans are what the Mangors are holding on to due to mindless, not quite fear, but more, I guess it does qualify as fear a little bit, because it's, oh, if we don't kill it now, it'll come back for us later. But I don't know what the point was of the humans getting destroyed in the process, because they're kind of trapped and they don't really know how to get out of it.
So, I mean, I wasn't sure when I was reading this whether I was projecting the story that I wanted it to be. Because sometimes that happens within short stories. You kind of, that makes me think of this, therefore that's what the story is about. But to me, it was about the intelligence of Mangor, because to them the threat was the vehicle. Was basically the tank. And when they trapped it and they seen the humans moving about, they didn't realize the intelligence was the humans and not the tank.
Yeah.
So they trapped the vehicle thinking it was a threat, but they didn't see the humans as a threat. And sort of speaking to their analysis or intelligence of the situation, they sort of wanted to put a hold on it. But ultimately, I think the point is in this that in an ecosystem like this, it doesn't matter what you consider to be a threat, because if one part of the chain goes, it all goes.
Mm.
It all disappears. It doesn't matter whether you think, oh, we're not seen as a threat, because ultimately, everything is connected together in some way, and you can make, assertions that this is the threat in society, and you put all the energy into dealing with that threat in society, but actually in doing so, you've destroyed the rest of society in some ways. And I think we can sort of see, I'm not trying to be too liberal, I think we can see some evidence of that in today's society, and in some ways, of people basically getting people to look at one way and say this is what the ills of society are, and therefore, but in the process, kind of taking everything else part of it. And again, I'm not sure that that's me projecting. It almost certainly is, but I definitely got that out of it.
Sure.
Yeah, I kind of love that interpretation. That makes sense, because I was trying to find an explanation that works for both of them, both the alien and the human. And I think what you said does explain that, because the alien holding on to it, that part I think we got, like Jared said. But why did the humans go in the process? That,
Yeah,
the mutually assured destruction of it all.
indeed.
I think
Even
it's
to the
pretty
point
cool.
that when the biological entity kind of just turns the thing upside down. Why? Don't know, but it did it because it could. It had power over that kind of thing to be able to manipulate it and turn it upside down, but to no effect. It used an awful lot of energy, because it again talked about that idea that it was running out of energy. It had expended all its energy to gripping and holding tight onto this thing, turning it upside down, but not really affecting it. At a certain point, they were just stopping it from going anywhere, and didn't see the other threats that were there.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that's the other thing. If you put all your, that goes back to what you're saying. If you're putting all your energy in this direction, you're destroying yourself. And the other thing in that process, it's
Mhm.
seeing everything as a threat as opposed to trying to understand it. Maybe, yeah. Which the humans are also doing. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
cool. Anything else about this
Yeah.
story before we wrap up?
It went by nice and quick, and
It did.
That's it. I like a short story. Yeah.
Yeah,
nice
same.
little story. Yeah.
We've got a few more of those before we come up on a 20-page
Mm.
one.
Was there a 20-page one coming? We'll just take a week off. I might miss
Yeah.
that week.
I think I think it's by Michael Bishop or someone, and then there's a CJ Cherry story that's also 20
Oh,
pages long.
that's good.
Right. Yeah. Anything else before we wrap up? All good. Okay.
All
Thank you
good
so
for
much
me.
for
Yeah.
listening, and we'll see you next episode with the next few chapters of A Desolation Called Peace, and the short story by Yasutaka Tsutsui called Standing Women. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you soon. Bye.